Donald Trump is spiraling out of control as his regime is in panic mode. He's been posting on social media photos of himself from 1983 at Studio 54 with horses behind him. And the text reads, Trump was often seen at Studio 54, the infamous New York celebrity club. With everything that the American people are dealing with right now, with Trump's destruction of our economy, with over 1.1 million jobs that were lost this year, with inflation surging, this is what you're doing. You're making posts like this. I want to go on and show you what else Donald Trump is doing. I just want to give you a reminder. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you can. You may think you're subscribed to this channel, but just go and double check. We're trying to get to 6 million subscribers, and you know we're under attack by the Trump regime and by state regime media, which calls itself Fox. So please, if you can, support us. I would be so grateful, and the best way you can do that is by subscribing to our YouTube channel right now. As Donald Trump continues to panic, he continues to attack the Somalian population. He's called the Somalian population total garbage. He's come up with the most racist and horrific statements about Somalian people. That's absolutely horrific. Also, Donald Trump announced that he would be lifting sanctions on the Russian multinational energy company, Luke Oil. So you know how Donald Trump said, we're thinking about imposing secondary sanctions on Russia. Nope. Not only is the Trump regime not imposing secondary sanctions against Russia, they've now announced they're actually going to be helping the Russian energy corporations because Donald Trump is a Putin bootlicker. Let's just call it what it is. Last night, Donald Trump held a press conference in connection with the White House Christmas tree lighting ceremony, where Donald Trump says everything in our economy is thriving. Inflation has stopped. This is the golden age. Here, play this clip.
Our economy is thriving. Inflation has stopped. Our nation is strong. And America is back, bigger and better, stronger, better than ever before. Think of it. And we're making peace all over the world. We're settling wars at levels that nobody's ever seen before. 8 of them. We're looking for one more. That's Russia, Ukraine, if that's possible. And I think we'll get there eventually.
Yep, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. This would make 1984 look less dystopian by far than what we're seeing in this Trump regime. But you have a lot of MAGA Republican Congress members threatening to resign and very dissatisfied with what's happening in the Trump regime. Take a watch here of Congressmember Thomas Massie and others. Play this clip.
Missing in action in a lot of ways. The House is not in the driver's seat when it comes to key policy areas.
You have a lot of intelligent, hardworking people who gave up a lot of things to be here in Congress. Only to find out that all they get to do is come here and rubber stamp whatever Donald Trump wants. Because nobody wants to be a rubber stamp. You could get a monkey to do this job.
You know, one of the horrific things that we're seeing is that Pete Hegseth and Trump's goons are doubling down on their war crimes, right? As we now know that war crimes have conclusively been committed by Hegseth and by this despicable regime, by the admiral and everyone who's involved in these boat strikes off the coast of Venezuela, where now it's close to 100 people have been dead. Let me show you what went down. So a Turning Point USA influencer, so someone who was part of Charlie Kirk's group that Kirk started, called Turning Point USA. His name is Andrew Colvett. And Andrew Colvett posted, every new attack aimed at Pete Hegseth makes me want another narco drug boat blown up and sent to the bottom of the ocean. So this comes from a right-wing influencer saying, because you've attacked Hegseth for engaging in war crimes, blow up another boat, Hegseth. So then Hegseth responds, this is real. This isn't AI. This is real. Hegseth responds, your wish is our command, Andrew. Just sunk another narco boat. And then U.S. Southern Command posts another death video. On December 4th, at the direction of Pete Hegseth, Joint Task Force Southern Spear conducted a lethal strike on a vessel in international waters operated by a designated terrorist organization. Intelligence confirmed that the vessel was carrying illicit narcotics and transiting along a known narco trafficking route in the Eastern Pacific. This one was in the Eastern Pacific. You take a look, it looks like it was another small boat right there. And again, you have war crimes being committed in plain view. But how sick is it that they're responding to right-wing influence saying, kill him, kill him. And then Hegseth goes, your wish is my command. They're dead now. That this is being done under the red, white, and blue, under the United States, it's just beyond despicable. I had the opportunity to interview Democratic Congressmember Jim Himes, who is the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee. Here's what he told me. Here, play this clip. What can you share with us about what you saw when the Admiral provided that video during the meeting?
Yeah, well, I don't know what else I can tell you. It was exceedingly hard to watch. From a legal standpoint, you can say that this is a war. I don't agree with that. It's not a war. If it were a war, it would be authorized by Congress. But even if you stipulate that it's a war, there is an extremely specific prohibition against killing individuals who've been removed from the fight. The French term they use is hors de combat. And there is no question that these individuals were removed from the fight. They were in the last hours of their life, even if we had left them alone because they were floating on a piece of flotsam in the middle of an ocean. Maybe they might have been recovered by some of their colleagues, but they posed zero threat to anyone in the region. And we killed them.
Now, this also follows some additional intelligence that we've learned from a CNN exclusive and others about what went down on that September 2nd strike. It's just horrific. So for 45 minutes, there were 2 survivors. There were 11 total people on the fishing boat. 2 people survived. They were clinging on. They didn't have any radio equipment. They were just desperate. And then there was for 45 minutes, people were watching these individuals holding on for dear life after the boat was shot and they survived. And then the United States military came back, did a double tap or double strike and killed them. It's so utterly horrific. And this comes at the same time where Donald Trump has forced the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to change the name of the Institute of Peace in Washington, D.C. to be called the Donald J. Trump Institute of Peace after Trump fired all of the board members at the Institute of Peace. As Donald Trump continues to make things far worse in Ukraine, taking Russia's side as Russia continues to invade and destroy Ukraine. But what's Donald Trump doing? Yesterday, he announced another fake peace deal. We covered this at length on the MeidasTouch network, but you had Donald Trump bring in the leaders of the Congo and Rwanda, and Trump's like, we made a deal, everybody. While there's still the war actually going on in Congo. The issue is there's a group called M23, which is affiliated with Rwanda. Rwanda denies that they're affiliated. They've been engaged in these attacks inside Congo. There's been back and forth conflicts taking place, and there's tons of deaths happening, even like yesterday. It's constant. So even a reporter from Africa asked Donald Trump, it's great you're announcing what you call a historic peace deal, but when does the peace happen? Because there are still troops there and people are dying. And Trump's like, in a few weeks, in a few months. So he quite literally did a fake peace deal while the war is still happening. But, he wants the headline. That's what he's after anyway, right? That's all he cares about. The same way he goes, everybody, look, we're in a golden age. There's no inflation. Things are great. Even state regime media, though, is not fully buying it. You had a Fox host speak to Donald Trump's national economic advisor, Kevin Hassett. And Fox is like, people are saying the economy's bad. What's your response? Watch Hassett's response. Play this clip.
Let's take a look at a couple more polls. This one shows on a scale of excellent, good, only fair, or poor, how would you rate economic conditions today? And if you combine only fair and poor, you get 76% on that poll. And then we have who is more responsible for current economic conditions, President Trump or President Biden. And we have Trump at 62%. So, I know that we've heard from you, we've heard from Scott Bessent saying that things are going to feel very different in the beginning of the year. And everybody hopes that that's absolutely accurate. And we look forward to that. But, what would you say to people who are answering the survey that way, Kevin?
Right.
Well, one of the things that we've seen and we've studied over the last couple of weeks is that when there's a government shutdown, then the things that we economists call the soft data, the survey data, tend to really, really tank because everyone's in a terrible mood because Washington can't work and the government shut down and they're worried about how bad it's going to be. But the hard data are what do people actually do with their lives, with their pocketbooks. And so, for example, we just saw the best Black Friday ever. People went out getting ready for the Christmas holiday shopping season, feeling very, very optimistic about the economy. As we go into next year, don't forget that all the people who have no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, who are going to be able to deduct the interest on their car loan if they buy a car, all those things are kicking in big time as we go into next year. That's why Secretary Bessent and I are both very confident that we're going to be looking at growth in the 4 numbers for the first half of next year.
And just in another despicable move yesterday, you had California Governor Gavin Newsom show up to Washington, D.C. to speak to leaders on Capitol Hill. And Newsom also wanted to speak to the Department of Homeland Security and to speak with FEMA about fire aid that people in Los Angeles need. I live in Los Angeles. I live near Altadena, where these fires have just devastated the area. I drove by, I ate at a restaurant there recently. It is, if you Google Altadena on a map, Google Maps, look at it. It is devastated. It still smells of fire when you go there. People are absolutely suffering there. And then there's the Palisades fire, Altadena and Pacific Palisades. Trump is refusing to give aid. He's refusing any plan. Like, it's absolutely disgusting right now. And Newsom went to try to meet with the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA refused to meet with him. They wouldn't meet with the governor of the most populous state and the wealthiest state and the 4th largest economy in the world. That's how petty and small this Trump regime is. It's absolutely despicable. But I should note, I did a whole video on this, they're also very incompetent, the Trump regime, as we all know. They tried to refile an indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James. And the grand jury in Norfolk, Virginia, rejected the refiling of the indictment. And so, they say you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, they can't indict a ham sandwich in the Trump regime. The grand jury rejected the indictment after the first case was dismissed because of an unlawful prosecutor in Lindsey Halligan. Finally, I want to play us out with Governor Walz of Minnesota. And here's what he had to say about the Somalian population and Trump's disgusting, racist, xenophobic, horrible attacks. Play this clip.
Donald Trump's calling our Somali neighbors garbage and the state of Minnesota a hellhole is, I'm assuming, is unprecedented for a United States president. We've got little children going to school today who their president called them garbage. This shouldn't be that difficult of trying to conflate. Look, we see it here. You commit crimes, you go to jail. Doesn't matter what your race is, what your ethnicity, religion. But demonizing the entire group of people by their race and their ethnicity, a very group of people who contribute to the vitality, economic, cultural of this state, is something I was hoping we'd never have to see. This is on top of all of the other vile comments. So let's be very clear. This should be easy to differentiate. You should very easily be able to say, we need to continue to work together. If there's crime, whether it's white, black, who cares? But to be able to condemn this. So I would just be very clear on this. Anyone in this state, especially elected officials, who are unable to condemn this vile attack on our neighbors in our state, you are complicit in it. And it will not stand in Minnesota. So I tell our Somali neighbors, I tell our Hmong neighbors, I tell all of our neighbors in Minnesota, you're respected, you're valued. We're proud of this state that ranks near the top in almost every single category. And I will tell you, the only thing that's hurting this state, as he so falsely claimed to a group of people, is Donald Trump himself.
There you have it. Let me know what you think, folks. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. We appreciate you so much.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.